Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of What the Heck Happened. This is going to be a Thom Explains episode, Star Wars related, and I wanted to get into a string of small topics about how George Lucas went wrong with the prequel films. If you are a fan of Star Wars like I am, you kind of look upon the prequel films with a little bit of a squinty eye, the stink eye, some people call it. They just weren't very good. They didn't hold up to the original trilogy, and that could be partly because of nostalgia, because I was all of 4 years old when that just made me feel really old. But I was 4 when the first film came out, and I saw it with my friend and his dad, and it just hit us all in a special way. As we now know, all these years later, 40 years later to this year, that Star Wars is special to a lot of people. But when the prequel films came out and started rolling out, starting with the Phantom Menace, George Lucas did something that a lot of people find sinful in the Star Wars universe, and that he introduced the idea of midichlorians. But before we get into those wonderful little biological force-giving organisms, let's talk about the original trilogy and the Force and the effect that it had on all of us. Now, I don't know if there's a man alive between the ages of 30 to 50 that was around at that time when, I probably have to go back, probably 40 to 50. When those original films came out and we saw Luke learning to use the Force under the tutelage of Obi-Wan Kenobi, all of us went home and looked at an object. Myself, it was a TV remote control, and I've heard that many others have had a similar experience, where you're on the couch and the remote is across the room, and you raise your hand, and you close your eyes, and you concentrate, and you try to get that goddamn remote to levitate to your hand, and it never did. And if it has worked for someone, you're probably locked in the basement at Area 51 being tested for special abilities. But anyway, we all tried it. We all tried to get tuned into the Force because the films, the original trilogy, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, gave us all hope that possibly that through focus, concentration, meditation, and training, any one of us could become a Jedi, or a Sith if you're an evil bastard, but that we all had that ability within us, and everyone in the Star Wars universe at any point could also have that ability. But then a Phantom Menace came along. And, well, the short of it is that Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn, along with Padme and R2-D2, all get stranded on Tatooine. And they encounter a young boy by the name of Anakin Skywalker. And Qui-Gon kind of has a feeling about this kid because of his piloting skills and a story that his mother tells about how he does not have a father, that she just became pregnant with him. He was an immaculate conception. And, oh boy, here we go. So Qui-Gon does all the math in his head, and he does I guess it was a blood test. He does a test on Anakin, and he reports back to Obi-Wan, who is back at the ship, that he has a midichlorian count that is off the charts, even more than that of Master Yoda, a count of over 20,000. And I think there was probably a collective gasp among everyone as soon as they heard that line. Wait a minute. Wait, what? What the hell are midichlorians? What do you mean? I have to have midichlorians to be able to get remote control from across the room? I can't just give up my life, stop working, and not go to school anymore and sit in a room and concentrate, sit Indian style, and start levitating rocks? No. Lucas introduced midichlorians, and many through the galaxy started to cry foul. And all of us who grew up with the original trilogy realized that all of our hopes and dreams had been dashed once and for all. So with this, all these years, everyone's been kicking this around. There's a documentary called The People versus George Lucas where they go into this subject for quite a long time in the film. I highly recommend the documentary. If you can find it online. The website, if you just Google People versus George Lucas, you're going to find this movie. It is awesome. If you are a Star Wars fan or just even a casual fan, you will find it very fascinating about what happened to fans after the prequels happened. And this is before anybody knew that Disney was going to buy the Star Wars franchise and buy Lucasfilm and start to try to do something new with it. There was a lot of disappointment, a lot of depression, a lot of sadness among everyone. And a lot of people became, quite angry and violent towards George Lucas. But they also held him in high esteem because he was the man who created it all. So back to midichlorians. So I think I have a fix on how to fix, well, I just said that twice. I have a way to fix the midichlorian controversy. I believe I do. I believe it's a good idea. I've shared it with a few people and they're like, wow, that's actually pretty good. But let me, I'm just going to read what I wrote. I did actually write this down. I am not going to sit here and just shoot off at the mouth. I probably will stop here and there and go off on a tangent once in a while, as I am known and prone to do. But here we go. This is my dissertation on how we can correct the midichlorian controversy. And some of this I may have already said, but we're going to go through this as I wrote it. One of the cardinal sins that George Lucas has committed when it comes to the Star Wars universe is the introduction of midichlorians. Infamously, did I say that right? Infamously? Yeah. Sorry. Introduced in the Phantom Menace, Lucas had destroyed the hopes of every fan who had hoped to one day be one with the Force purely out of sheer will. Who hasn't tried to use the Force to retrieve a TV remote from across the room? So what are midichlorians? Well, they are microscopic organisms that connect the living force to the cosmic force, born and originated from the Force planet, which appeared in an episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars. In The Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon Jinn administers a test to a young Anakin Skywalker and pronounces that his midichlorians are off the charts. You could feel the sighs and silent tears as Star Wars faithful began to realize, well, you're born with it, or you ain't. This was George Lucas's original plan. However, it was abandoned during the filming of A New Hope, and it was saved later for The Phantom Menace. George Lucas once said to Lawrence Kasdan that everyone can do it. It's just the Jedi that take the time to do it, like karate. The premise leaves the powers of the Force at anyone's fingertips as long as they believe and put in the work. Did Star Wars fan read too much into the introduction of midichlorians? What if we looked at it this way? Midichlorians are born on the Force planet and find their way all over the galaxy. Luke received his by heredity, and Leia, I did not forget Leia. What if Lucas's original idea is still valid? You could believe and begin to practice the ways of the Force, and as you became more focused and attuned to the cosmic force, the living force came to you as if you were a beacon and began to inhabit your body and steadily built up your midichlorian count. All that you had to do is open yourself to the possibility of the living force. Lucasfilm and Disney may try to leave the midichlorian train at the station, but it is currently in the official databank at StarWars.com. Regardless, it's okay to open ourselves up to the existence of the microscopic marvels of the Star Wars universe. Meditate, become one with the cosmic force, and let those little buggers into your life. All of us are still eligible to become one with the Force. Feel it flow through you. It surrounds you, the mystical force. Until then, get up and get the remote. You left it on the TV stand again, you idiot. And may the Force be with you always. So that's what I wrote about the midichlorian controversy. So basically, the point is that, well, maybe you don't have to be born with it. Maybe there's a possibility that you use the cosmic force as a way to open yourself up to accept the living force. The living force would be the midichlorians. They are biological. The cosmic force, well, that's something a little bit more mystical. It surrounds the entire galaxy. So think of it as the living force is local, cosmic force is global, even universal. So if you were able to meditate and focus and attune yourself to accept the living force and to allow yourself to accept midichlorians within your own being, well, then you could become force sensitive and start to walk the path of the Jedi. I don't know if anybody buys into that, but I think it's a pretty good way for Disney and Lucasfilm to salvage the travesty, the conspiracy, the controversy, and the pain that was laid upon all the original Star Wars fans when A Phantom Menace was first shown on the screen and destroyed all of our hopes of levitating objects in our bedrooms, living rooms, basements, wherever you may be. But I think it's a pretty good plan. What do you guys think? Let me know. I'd love to hear some suggestions on if Disney should even try to correct the midichlorian controversy. It is still on the official Star Wars website. It is in the data bank. Midichlorians are there. They have not let it go. Anyone familiar with what happened when Lucasfilm was purchased by Disney is that a lot of other media, books and television shows and cartoons, comic books, games, well, they became part of what's now called Star Wars Legends. They are no longer part of the core story or the canon of current Star Wars storytelling. So they are slowly bringing in some elements of what's in the Legends group, most notably Admiral Thrawn. If no one's familiar with Admiral Thrawn, you really should read the original novels by Timothy Zahn. They're great, and he is a force to be reckoned with in the Star Wars universe, but he's not a force-sensitive being. So let us know what you think. Check us out on Facebook. Leave a comment at WTH.happened. Also, you can comment on Twitter at WhatHappenedPod, and we're on Instagram at WhatHappenedPod. You can check out What the Heck Happened on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and searchable on all your favorite podcast apps. And we are now also available on Google Play. So thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you always.